conversation there between Fox 11's Alex Michelson and Dr. Mark Galley, who is in charge of Health and Human Services in the state of California, breaking down all things coronavirus for Californians in the state. So really great conversation. We want to switch now gears because we want to cover a big story that is happening at the moment, and this time it's on the southern border. And so immigration and the ongoing surge of migrant children at the border is one of the biggest challenges facing the Biden administration. Officials are reportedly considering housing them in a Virginia military base. Fox News' correspondent David Spunt reports from Fort Lee, Virginia.
We are working as hard as we are, not only in addressing the urgency of the challenge, but also in building the capacity to manage it.
1 week after Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas spoke to reporters about the border surge, the Biden administration is reportedly considering using an Army post in Virginia to house unaccompanied children.
When you have a surge that's taken place, and let's call a spade here, it is a crisis which has taken place, much as we do when we have a natural disaster. You got to move quickly to deal with that crisis.
Over the weekend, Secretary Mayorkas and senior administration officials traveled to a Border Patrol facility for a firsthand look at some of the challenges they're facing. They plan to brief President Biden this week.
We're trying to manage this in an orderly fashion, but obviously being very mindful of the human cost here in light of the fact that we are talking about kids.
Critics attribute the uptick in the border crossings to the Biden administration rolling back President Trump's immigration policies. Some are also worried about the surge taking place during a pandemic and if there is adequate testing and tracing for those entering illegally.
I just got back from the border. They're changing every policy of Trump that worked. So we're going to be dealing with, as a nation, out of control immigration.
If Fort Lee is selected to house the children, it would stay unoccupied until the need for space is urgent. In Fort Lee, Virginia, David Spunt, Fox News.
And an increase in migrant families arriving at the U.S. Mexico border continues as the Biden administration struggles to manage it. In Peñitas, Texas, Border Patrol agents were out in full force yesterday, intercepting immigrants that were smuggled into the United States by using the Rio Grande River. As numbers of immigrant families arriving to the country continues to increase, large-scale detentions have also grown, leading many to criticize President Biden, saying unaccompanied children and families are not being released from custody fast enough. Sources say border agents detained nearly 100,000 migrants at the border in February, the highest monthly total since mid-2019. And at the moment, we're going to get a live report now from the border itself, this time in Nogales, Arizona. The U.S. Mexico border remains closed because of the pandemic, but hundreds of migrants are still heading in waves to our southern borders, and it's now leaving several communities on edge. Fox's Stephanie Bennett is joining us with the latest from Nogales, Nogales, Arizona. Stephanie, what's the latest there on the scene?
That's right, Andrew. Some towns are already seeing new migrants and illegal crossings, especially in Texas and California. Here in Arizona, we're seeing a lot more in Yuma, and the mayor of Nogales says he's worried that it's going to continue over in his town of Nogales. But he is optimistic about what this new Biden administration will bring to border communities like his.
For Border Patrol and Customs and Border Protection, and an uphill battle for all our border communities, from San Diego all the way to Brownsville.
The mayor of Nogales, Arizona says closed borders and a global pandemic are taking a toll on his town. But now that President Biden is in office, he wants to see some changes, starting with removing all this barbed wire and reopening the borders, but with strict COVID-19 precautions in place.
There's no need for concertina wire on our wall here with Mexico. That is for military purposes. That's for a battlefield. not for an area like this.
But like other border communities, he's preparing to deal with an influx of new migrants and asylum seekers coming in from Mexico. The possibility of expanding immigration laws and escaping ongoing violence in Central America is encouraging many people to try and cross. U.S. Customs and Border Protection stats already show encounters are almost double compared to last year. Rancher John Ladd is seeing it firsthand.
We actually had some law and order on the border during Trump's administration. There is no law on the border right now.
The border wall runs for 10.5 miles along his ranch. He says during former President Trump's administration, he saw about 20 people a month illegally cross the border onto his land. But since President Biden took office, he's seeing dozens.
On Sunday, they caught 100 in a 5-mile area on our ranch. Half of the ranch, they caught 100 people. Yesterday, I knew we had 4 groups. Today, I know we got 2 groups going right now. It's round the clock, every day and night. They're coming again.
Now, Rancher John Ladd tells us that construction of the border wall is complete on his land, but there are gaps nearby, and other safety measures like security lighting is currently on hold. For now, he says all he can do is contact the Border Patrol or the Sheriff's Office whenever he sees any illegal activity. Andrew?
Stephanie, just a quick question for you. While you're there in Nogales, what are other community members saying, especially with this kind of change in approach between the previous administration and now the Biden administration?
It's pretty interesting to see just kind of the whole state of Arizona in general. Over in Yuma, which I was over there a couple weeks ago, they're seeing a lot more migrants coming into the country right now. The mayor I spoke to over there says it's kind of overwhelming right now to deal with that. And they are shipping migrants and people who are being released from detention facilities. Some of them are coming over here to Phoenix to shelters, or there's a big shelter down in Tucson. Over on the Nogales side, the Nogales mayor tells me they haven't seen too many migrants coming across so far, but their town relies on foot traffic, and they've been heavily hit this year. A year ago, you'd go walk through Nogales, and it's a thriving town, but right now, it's very quiet. A lot of businesses have for lease signs, closed signs, so it's a completely different place. So the mayor really wants that border to be reopened to foot traffic and vehicle traffic instead of just essential workers, and he wants it done safely, though. He wants COVID-19 precautions in place because he's also worried about that aspect of everything.
Stephanie, that's right. Some people are worried that this influx in border crossings could be bringing some COVID cases into the country, as cases are down at the moment. But we thank you for bringing us that story here. Just want to note that NewsNOW from Fox has reached out to Customs and Border Protection, as well as trying to get some experts tonight to talk about this growing crisis there at the border. Stephanie, thanks so much. See you again.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll be continuing to follow this story, just like I said, on NewsNOW from Fox as we get more information. But before we do that, though, we do want to take a quick commercial break, so we'll see you back here in 2 minutes on NewsNOW.